Diversity and evolution of the honeybee, Apis mellifera. Honeybees. Honeybees are a close relative to ants and wasps. They live on nectar and pollen and an important role to the environment as well as a good source of human food supply. They have a proboscis, which is a straw-like tongue which allows them to drink nectar within the flowers. Their body is split into 3 segments: the head, the thorax and the abdomen. They can be found in every continent on Earth apart from Antarctica. This is because they have no access to flowers or plants which they need to survive. Honeybees live in colonies and are very social insects. Their population has a single queen with hundreds of drones and thousands of worker bees, and since the colony has different types of honeybees, each have a different task and role. They collect nectar and help in the production of honey, which they are good at making. They carry the nectar back to the hive where their bodies break down the sucrose of the nectar into simple sugars, fructose and glucose. They then store it into a honeycomb cell. Afterwards, they will beat their wings over the sweet liquid to allow it to thicken the substance. Finally, once this is done, they will cap each honeycomb with beeswax and seal it to help produce the honey which is consumed later. Dance of the honeybees. There are 2 different types of dance that the worker bees perform. The round dance means that the supply is around 100 yards away from the nectar, therefore nearby, whereas the waggle dance means the direction and distance of the supply for nectar. The distance is shown by the length or even the duration of a waggle run. As an example, for the number of waggle runs in 15 seconds, 9 represents 100 yards, 6 represents 500 yards, and 2 represents 5,000 yards. A vertical dance means food is in the direction with the sun and the hive. The direction in relation to the sun's position is indicated by the angle between the waggle run and the vertical. These dances are a form of communication between the worker bees to help in the collection of nectar. This following video will show you more.
Sometimes they can fly more than 6 kilometres to get enough nectar and pollen back because they need a plentiful and vast supply. It's a huge problem, and to solve that problem requires massive organisation.
But the bees have an almost incredible solution. Adam has set up an observation hive. It's completely dark inside, and so infrared cameras reveal what's going on.
There's all sorts of behaviours going on. Initially it looks very chaotic, it looks like bees are everywhere, but you can see some vibrations going on and some movements that are actually part of a very sophisticated communication system.
The bees perform a striking behaviour that's key to solving the problem of gathering enough food. It's called the waggle dance.
The waggle dance is a very sophisticated way of directing foragers towards nectar in the environment. So it's sat-nav for bees, it's telling them where to go.
The waggle dance isn't just for show. This bee has found a good source of food, and she's performing a set of very precise movements to tell the others exactly where to find it.
And it tells them the direction and the distance of the nectar.
Diversity of the honeybee. There are 10 species of honeybee which are part of the Apis genus that is generally recognised. There are 3 groups based upon their phylogenetic analysis according to their mtDNA and nuclear DNA which supports these: cavity nesting bees, giant bees and dwarf bees. Apis mellifera represents the division away from the cavity nesting bees that is more likely to trace back to its origin of Asia. From the precise basis of morphometry, there are at least 29 subspecies of Apis mellifera. These are divided into 4 major groups which support not only their morphometric and genetic studies, but also their ecological, behavioural and psychological traits. Group A includes subspecies from Africa. Group M includes subspecies from Northern and Western Europe. Group C includes subspecies from Eastern Europe, and Group O includes subspecies from the Middle East and Turkey. Evolution of the honeybee. Bees have lived on this planet for more than 100 million years. One evolutionary change which bees have evolved into is how they are more dependent on flowering plants. This occurred approximately 130 million years ago. This can be linked to the emergence of angiosperms, which occurred at the same time as the insect evolution, which was around 40 million years ago. This is when the ancestral honeybees were emerged. The phylogenetic order Hymenoptera are insects which store honey. This is what honeybees are known for, as well as other insects. Bees are from the Apoidea group. From that, the family Apidae helped to diverse the bees. The honeybee is from the Apis genus. With the western honeybee Apis mellifera, which is found throughout Saharan Africa, Europe, parts of Western Asia and the Middle East, it is the only honeybee that has become more domesticated than the rest. It split from its close relatives, Apis cerana, around 6 to 25 million years ago, where it is expanded and colonized parts of Asia, Europe and Africa. There are 4 distinct groups known: Group A, Group M, Group C and Group O. However, recently a 5th lineage, Y, was identified from Northern Africa and the Middle East by Frank et al. 2001, and also a potential 6th lineage was supposedly reported in Syria. Bee roles in the hive. Worker bees are all female and do everything within the hive. They make up at least 99% of the colony's population and are the most familiar. Worker bees' lifespan are 45 days, and they are given different tasks depending on what stage of life they are at. They are responsible for feeding larvae, tending to the queen, cleaning the hive, collecting food, guarding the colony, and even building honeycomb. Their stinger is barbed so that the worker bees can defend themselves or the hive. It will get stuck in the victim's skin and are unable to remove their stinger. This is when they'll die, as the worker bees would have to tear themselves from the stinger, with the venom still flowing within their victim. Whereas all drone bees are male. Their job is to mate with queens from other hives. Once they mate, they will die immediately afterward. However, if they do not, they live up to 90 days. They are easily seen within the hive for their large eyes and round bodies and are incapable of stinging. Finally, the queen bee. There is one queen to every hive. She is the only fertile member of the colony and can lay up to 1,500 eggs per day during the spring and summer period. They have long abdomens and small wings. Once the queen bursts, she will go out of the hive and mate with at least 15 drones or more over a 3-day period before returning to the hive to lay eggs. And she won't be able to leave the hive unless they are searching for a new home. Once a colony needs a queen, they will choose a healthy larvae from an egg of the current queen, feed it with a special, nutritious royal jelly, which is produced in the heads of the young nurse bees. This helps the larvae grow into a queen, and queen bees usually live between 4 and 7 years. According to Ribbands 1953 and Seeley 1982, nursing casts usually last a week between the ages of 4 and 12 days. Their role is to feed a proteinaceous secretion to the young, not like other social bees which have pollen. The growth rate of the larvae, who do not digest pollen cuticles, supposedly increase. In addition, the nursing bees also transfer their proteinaceous secretion to the younger and older bees in the nest, which is critical for their development and maintenance. This is not the only role of nursing bees, however, because they must care for the queen. The queen's behaviour is regulated by bees in the retinue, which includes the nursing bees. This is going by when the queen is fed, and they act as a messenger bee by spreading pheromones about the nest from the queen. Conclusion of the honeybees. In conclusion, throughout my research, bees have evolved through time even when we are not fully aware. They have developed the waggle dance to help identify sources of pollen and directionality so that the working bees are able to distinguish where to go, and not only that, but their defences are also important for the protection of their queen and the rest of the hive from threats. There are many different species of bees, ranging in size and in their habitat, with them all being part of an important role towards the environment. Without honeybees or any other form of bees, it would mean that there would be no more production of honey, but also it will mean the flowering plants will be badly affected. It is not fully understood about the honeybee's evolutionary changes, especially in the subspecies, which have not been fully studied. However, with research improving, it will soon be realised about the full lineage of where the honeybees and bees in general have evolved, and how potentially we can find a way to help in their survival.